Hello and welcome. Let's start with South Africa, where the promise of a job abroad and hope of a better future is pushing young women into a war zone. South Africa has launched an investigation into reports of Russian firms luring young women to support Russia's war in Ukraine. These young women are reportedly offered jobs in Russia's construction and hospitality sectors. But upon arrival, they are made to work in drone production factories instead. These drones are then used in Russian attacks on Ukraine. As per media reports, one of the main recruiters is the Alabuga Special Economic Zone in Russia's Tatarstan. It is one of Russia's flagship industrial hubs and a key player in producing the Shahed-type military drones that are used in Russia's offensive in Ukraine. There are two factories that are fueling these recruitments. Now, first is Russia's labor shortage. Russia's population is aging and shrinking, and the loss of hundreds of thousands of men in the ongoing war has worsened the labor crisis. As per the country's deputy prime minister, there is an estimated 4.8 million worker gap in the economy. Now, South Africa, on the other hand, is grappling with an unemployment crisis. Nearly a third of South Africans are unemployed, and almost half of women under 34 are jobless. Now, the next question is, how does this recruitment drive work? Now, the Russian firms are reportedly using the BRICS branding for these hirings. As per media reports, South Africa's chapter of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance signed an agreement in May to supply over 5,600 workers to Alabuga and construction firm, the Etolongstray in Russia. Now, BRICS Student Commission in South Africa advertised job opportunities in Russia's construction and hospitality sectors. These ads targeted South African women aged 18 to 22. These opportunities were further promoted on Instagram and TikTok as well-paid international placements. Hoping for a better future, these young women take up the overseas employment opportunities, but they reportedly find themselves stuck in a war they did not sign up for. Research shows that 90% of the women who traveled to Russia under this program ended up in drone assembly plants that frequently face Ukrainian attacks. These recruitments that expose vulnerable youth to dangerous conditions are not just limited to South Africa. Back in April, Russia's Alabuga had held events at the University of Botswana, presenting the program as an empowerment opportunity for young women. Parents were concerned that their children might be sent to drone factories, but the Russian representatives dismissed these concerns. Now, back in June, a controversial Russian scholarship scheme had triggered widespread outrage in Nigeria for reportedly sending several young Nigerians, including minors, to work in Russian drone factories. Now, such recruitment schemes have further highlighted how promise of a job abroad can push the vulnerable African youth to take up such risks. And for more on this, we have with us Sean Duthie, who is a director at Control Risks, joining us live from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you for being with us and welcome to Firstpost Africa again.
Thank you.
Now, why do you think South African women are being targeted in these alleged recruitment schemes? And what does this reveal about vulnerabilities in South Africa's job market and, of course, oversight of foreign employment offers?
Well, I think, as you noted, they're not just targeting South Africans. They also were in Botswana. And I think it's also very likely that we'll probably see them target other countries in the region for more employees. I did speak with the author of this article several months back, and he also stated, as he said in the article, that women are preferred because they seem to be more compliant than if they were to bring males. And also he noted that it's likely that potentially the smaller fingers and dexterity might help with the, or might be seen to help with the manufacturing of drones. But the large number of applicants, I think, really shows the lack of opportunities in South Africa and the hunger that South Africans have to find work, in particular because the wages that they're paying in Russia aren't much better than you would get here in South Africa. But there are more promises of further opportunities and higher wages. And I think, unfortunately, we don't have those same opportunities in South Africa with similar low skill level jobs.
Right. And given that many of these advertised jobs are in construction and hospitality sectors, but may allegedly lead to this drone production, what safeguards should South Africa implement to protect vulnerable young women from exploitation under the guise of this overseas employment?
I mean, it's a very hard issue for the government to address because we have a lot of young South African citizens who go abroad to find work, maybe teaching English in Asia, working in a pub in London, and the government just doesn't have the capacity to investigate all these jobs to ensure that there's no exploitation. I think the fact that they are investigating this is a really good sign, though. And the government has in the past helped citizens who took overseas employment that ended up not being what it was supposed to be. But I think, unfortunately, the government is likely only able to help citizens after the fact, and it will still remain actually up to the individual to do their research into the company prior to leaving South Africa.
Absolutely. And how significant is this, you've touched on it there, the investigation for South Africa's broader foreign policy, particularly its balancing act between maintaining ties with Russia and ensuring the protection of its citizens abroad?
So, I mean, I think it's very important for the South African government to investigate what's happening at these companies and whether citizens are being misled and then working on drones. I think in particular because potentially these South Africans that are there may be violating the South African Prohibition of Mercenary Activities Act if they are helping to produce drones which are being used in Ukraine. So more clarity is needed on what these South Africans are doing in Russia, and also if they're doing it willingly, which may potentially result in legal issues when they return here to South Africa. But I think the investigation as far as Russia, I don't think it will be a major issue for Russia. It shouldn't damage relations. It's not a huge Russian foreign policy priority. If anything, if South Africa keeps pushing on the investigation, it's likely these companies will go somewhere else. And unfortunately, there are many other countries with high unemployment in the region, and their citizens would also jump at these type of opportunities.
Right. Sean, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion kakaidyo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
4 兆ドル以上も
Portuguese,
por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.